Hey, and welcome. I'm Dave, and you're listening to Life Is Peachy, a nostalgia-fueled podcast that allows me to sit here and waffle on about the bands and albums that became the soundtrack to my life.
Oh my god, tripping.
My favorite singer in the whole world is in my band.
Growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, and while we're at it, sharing a few memories from Her Name is Murder Productions. '22, a new year, a new episode.
It's a new look.
And often when the clock strikes midnight, we strive to move forward and evolve, equipped with New Year's resolutions and beginnings. But it can also be quite nice to remain in the moment and within the company of old friends and comforts. And sometimes, one episode, well, it just isn't enough. And I think my time with Chad and Wes of Head PE proved this, and I want to spend some more time with Kitty and a particular part of my life that just made sense and never fails to keep me smiling.
Excellent.
When their debut album Spit was released in the year 2000, the world 11 days fresh of surviving Y2K, heavy music continued to throw everything at us in all colours, shapes and sizes, and we the people, we were hungry for all of it. There were no limits, no prejudice. New music was being pushed and promoted everywhere via every available avenue. All you had to do was purchase a music magazine, watch a music video channel, listen to the radio, and you would discover so much music, so many new bands. It was maybe the last period in the industry where an even playing field seemed to exist, and all bands were seen and treated as huge, the next big thing.
Is that gasoline I smell? No.
Well, at least that's how it seemed through my eyes back then. But Kittie's debut album was released during this period of time. From the very beginning, Kittie were a band that just fascinated me. Formed in 1996 and consisting of sisters Morgan and Mercedes Lander, Tanya Chandler, and guitarist Fallon Bowman, they wasted no time in releasing 2 demos before bursting out onto the international audience with 2000's nu metal infused Spit, all while at the average age of 16 and still attending high school. After meeting Mercedes in gym class, Fallon would co-found Kittie at the age of 14 and play with them until 2001. And even though this period of time would only stretch 5 years in the band's 25 plus year span, for many of us this classic lineup, including bassist Talina Atfield, is the Kittie we first fell in love with and stayed with forever.
Recording in progress.
Yes, I got it. Thank you, Zoom.
Just like on set with my video camera, my biggest fear is getting to the end of an interview and forgetting to press the record button.
Like, guess what? You're being recorded. Yeah, I do. I'm an actor too, so I do quite a few of my callbacks are done over Zoom. They had to warn us before we were starting our scene. Hey, you're being recorded. And then she comes in there. You're being recorded.
Well, now it seems like the perfect time to introduce the one and only Fallon Bowman to the Life Is Peachy podcast. Original guitarist of Canada's Kittie and returning in 2021 with your solo project Amphibious Assault. Thank you so much for your time and energy and joining episode 15.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Excellent.
I'm working on a theater production right now. It's long 8-hour days and it's crazy. This is nice though, to just sit and relax.
Well, I'm so glad to hear and appreciate that you consider something like this relaxing.
Yeah.
These last few years, there's just a lot of anniversaries happening and all of this powerful nostalgia floating around in the air as a result of such a special time in music and also for the people listening to it back then. It was something profound for all of us, I think, artists and fans. And we are here, of course, to look back on Spit. But before you even started Kitty, would you say that you were surrounded by the influence of music growing up?
I would say certainly. That's always been a part of my life. I come from I wouldn't say a long line, but especially on my father's side, heavy family band thing. I only found this out recently, actually, but it makes so much sense. My grandfather was in a band with his entire extended family. Like, we're talking banjos and all these homemade instruments. And like, that's what people got together to do, to surround themselves with song and family and food and whatever. So it sounded very jovial. Obviously, I wasn't there. I wasn't even born yet. But music, in terms of just hearing it all the time, there was always a soundtrack of my life, from tiny, could barely walk Fallon to now. I think I would probably credit my dad with having super eclectic taste in music. Hearing that as a kid, that kind of became the soundtrack to my life. And sometimes I'll throw on those exact same albums because it just reminds me of growing up and being surrounded by just cool music. He just had really cool taste. And then my sisters were the complete opposite. They like dance hall and reggae and hip hop and R&B. And so I can name pretty much every 90s reggae or dance hall album that ever came out because of them. And then I met people who had other musical influences as well. So being Morgan and Mercedes, who I'd never really heard metal before. So they were really the ones that introduced me to it. And I was like, yes.
Yes, amazing.
This is it.
I find that concept so interesting. Growing up within the four walls of the family home and having your parents' musical tastes and influences passed down onto you. And then this pyramid starts forming with input from siblings, friends, the radio, and then eventually coming to discover music completely independent and on your own terms. You know, as your style and taste was now taking shape and form.
Yeah.
When did that lean towards the idea of wanting to start up a band and use that as a way to create and express yourself?
Well, there were two phases for me, I would say, because I really started writing music very, very early. And when I say music, I use that loosely. I didn't really know how to write music. I was just writing lyrics and singing them. That came very early. But writing in terms of I want to be in a band and I want to play guitar. At first, actually, it was drums, but my parents refused to buy me drums.
Wow. You're amazing, dude.
Thanks. I like to play.
And I was like, okay, guitar then? Will that be okay? They're like, yes, with headphones. Sure.
Thank you.
That really came, I would say, around like 10, 11, 12. I started discovering grunge. Grunge was like huge for me. Huge at those times because it was like literally just after Kurt Cobain died, of course.
Singer and guitarist Kurt Cobain was found dead this morning from a self-inflicted blast from a 12-gauge shotgun.
I started discovering Nirvana and all of the bands that came out of Seattle. Whole kind of grunge wave.
Caught my first tube this morning, sir.
That's what really got me pumped about maybe starting a band. Didn't really know many other women that played at that time. Tons of guys in their garage bands. I was always really inspired by the fact that they could just get together and do that. I'm like, yeah, guys, can I come and jam? And they're like, a girl. What?
Hey, everybody. Got some awesome news. We have a new crew member today, Denise.
Hi, everyone.
Definitely discovering Nirvana was like pivotal for me. I was absolutely blown away and so dangerously obsessed with Nirvana. It was really problematic, I would think, at some points. They changed the game, 100%. I wasn't even necessarily infected by how popular they were. Because remember, at this point, he'd already died, but I think it was the tortured artist, I think, that was attractive to me, literally.
Definitely.
The fact that you have somebody that really felt tortured by the fact that he had to create art. That, for some reason, just spoke to me, which is kind of strange when you think about it. Being 10 or 11, looking at this man and being like, wow, I totally feel where you're getting from. It's like, do I? Did I really understand what he was going through as a 26 or 7-year-old man? Like, I don't think I did, but I romanticized, I think, what he was experiencing and what he was writing about and the punk rock lifestyle and whatever I conceived of that at the time. I was like, yeah, I love that. They just don't give a fuck and they're just screaming about things. I love that.
Yeah.
The primitiveness of it really spoke to me.
What would I do without you? No, you complete me.
I came from a great upbringing and friends, good life, but I have always resonated or felt akin to the darkness and dark subject matter within music and been attracted to that particular emotion.
Yes.
And to some extent, there must be a part of me that relates to that or understands that, because it just seems to make sense to me. This music must act as a vessel or a therapy for me to process these emotions and feelings and
to some extent,
express them, get them out, and be okay with them.
I agree with you. It definitely has to speak to some part of us that either we're a little bit hesitant to deal with in other ways. The music gives us a safe space in order to do that.
Yes, definitely. But I remember meeting Daryl Palumbo of Glassjaw and being so excited to show him my GJ logo tattoo, and he was awesome. He signed it and hung around for a quick second, and I told him that when Everything You've Ever Wanted to Know About Silence came out, I completely connected with it to the extent that when I was 15, I thought, this album's written about me, or that even I had written the lyrics myself. And I'll never forget it. He looked at me and said, oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's enough.
And then it hit me, what was I even talking about?
Yeah.
But I guess what I really meant to say was that I really resonated with his vulnerability and expression, an expression of emotion that created a safe place for me to think and feel the things I wanted to, and to know that it was possible to do that.
So that's what I felt when I first heard Sepultura's Roots for me. And I was coming off of Thinking in Utero is the greatest album of all time. Don't come for me. I literally loved it. And then they're playing this for me. And I'm like, where has this been all of my life? It's such a funny first band to kind of have your heavy metal cherry popped with. It is very primitive sound, especially on Roots. It has like a tribal aspect to it, which I was just like, yes, this is great. It was not a slippery slope, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, I just wanted to consume everything that I saw that spoke to that part of me.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of falling down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. I was literally Alice, like, oh my God, what is this? From there, it was just like hearing Korn. And then, oh my God, hearing the Deftones, forget it. I was just done. I'm like, this is just it's like hearing angels sing. It was just incredible.
That is the perfect impression of First Impact with Deftones. So around the same time in my life, I was with my family and we were visiting friends in Newcastle, Australia. And the daughter of the family took me into her room, which was full of all these CDs and VHS. And she introduced me to Roots, Rage Against the Machine, so much stuff. And made me this amazing mixtape to take back to Brisbane. It was... some sort of enlightened experience or something.
Yeah, indeed.
And from there, that was the beginning of the end for me, so to speak. I became completely addicted to the detective work, to the chase.
It became a chase. That's exactly it. I imagine your situation was the same. Even though I was in Canada and very close to the US, all these bands are from the US, it was expensive as hell. You know, I remember I paid more than $30, which to a 12 or 13-year-old kid is a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much.
It was $35. I imported Snot's Get Some.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
It remains probably one of my favorite CDs of all time. It's just incredible. Worth every fucking penny, really. But yeah, I was like, how is it so expensive? I'm literally just getting it from across the border.
Okay. I brought this up a few times in some of the previous episodes. It's crazy that you specifically mentioned Get Some, because this album in particular, in Australia, ordering it on a complete whim, 6 weeks wait, bulk price, all on a hunch and hoping the rest of the album would speak to me.
How many of our decisions were made from reading about just a mention in a magazine? I think with Snot, it was because they'd mentioned that Theo Kogan from the Lunatics sang on that record. And I'm like, fuck, that's awesome. So, okay, I will give it a chance. And I'm putting a lot of weight onto the words of this music journalist. I'm going to drop $35 Canadian. I trusted a lot of their word. Like, okay, yeah, I should buy this. Yes.
And sometimes it wouldn't pay off.
No.
But when it did, it was like...
Oh, it really did. Yeah. And then also how much, besides like music magazines, how much programmed music video shows influenced my buying decisions as well. Here we have Much Music, kind of like MTV. They had one particular show that played only heavy music and it's called Loud. Video after video after video. And we would write down the names of these bands. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Oh yeah, I like that. Oh, that's awesome. And it was just the chase. Like you're saying, you're just trying to getting their albums.
Yeah, it was my first drug. Probably.
yeah. It's a good, at least it's good and it's free. Well, not free. It's not free. No, you're still paying for it.
A price worth paying. There is such a vibe present in the sound of Kittie's debut. One that really gets under your skin and into your DNA. Spit is raw, relentless, and filled to the brim, overflowing with a grimy texture and atmosphere that is very addictive and somewhat therapeutic. And you can't deny it. As soon as that guitar starts up on the opening track, it's like a trance. I'm in. I was in when I was 15, and over 20 years later, it still does the same thing to me.
Awesome.
What were your intentions entering the studio for your debut album, and what did you hope to come out with on the other side?
What's really funny is that those songs, we had been sitting on them since our first demo tape, which was called Sex is Hell. Then we had an EP that came out after that. So they had literally had time to incubate and grow to the point where we wanted it to sound, and I think that was very deliberate, having it sound very raw. And I think we described it sort of like we wanted to punch people in the face when you hear it, which I think we accomplished. Sex is Hell grabs you, but in a different way, in a very like 90s way. sonically, Spit as it is exactly what we're looking for. A raw, not polished. Even though it's much more polished than what we did on the EP, it was still retained that grit that we were looking for. And then I think also on some level, we didn't know what we were looking for until we heard it. We wanted to play it and like see what we could do. And one thing that really stuck out with me that I was a little bit afraid of at first was when Garth brought me in to do guitar tracking. He was just like, all right, we're going to give you this guitar to play. And here's what the setup looks like. I'm like, oh, and I was very married to the way that my guitar sounded. But I, first of all, trusted him implicitly that he knew what he was doing, because clearly I'm freaking 13 or 14. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just like, okay, listen, sir. I like the way that my guitar sounds.
Like, I know you've produced Rage Against the Machine. And all.
Yeah, but like, I know what I'm talking about. I'm 13, okay? So just, you know. So I was a little bit apprehensive about that. What if it doesn't sound good? What if it doesn't sound like me or whatever? But I don't think it would have attained that grit and just heaviness. There was no opportunity for anything to get through. Like, you were continuously getting punched in the face. If I would have come in with my like shitty fucking 15-watt amp, that would have been accomplished, right? I think we accomplished what we were looking to do without really even knowing exactly what that was. It was just like, we just wanted to just punch people in the face with the sound. Okay. Can we do that? Awesome.
Describe to me what it felt like for you hearing back the mixes of those songs for the very first time.
Oh my God. I haven't been able to replicate in my life many times where I've been so fucking pumped. Hearing something sound so satisfying and so heavy, because we were so preoccupied with hearing albums that had so much devilry happening musically, sonically. We wanted to capture that, and then hearing just like pre-mixed version. We were so fucking pumped, dude. I can't even tell you. We were like screaming little girls, which is exactly what we were. Just like, oh my God, that's so fucking awesome. Like, just losing it. It's this feeling I haven't been able to completely replicate in subsequently, because it's just been me. I haven't really been in a band since, but it's indescribable is what I'm trying to say, I think.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Spit was released January 11th, 2000 through NG Artemis Records, a gold record, selling more than 600,000 copies in the US alone, peaking at 79 on the US Billboard and staying on the charts for 37 weeks. Keep in mind, a lot of the songs from Spit were written when the band were around 14 years old.
Wow.
It was recorded over 9 days at EMAX Studios in Canada with acclaimed producer Gigi Garth. Yo, the guy responsible for Rage Against the Machine's debut and a slew of new metal classics. If you followed the podcast, then you know. In general, what was that experience like leading up to the moment and working with producer Garth Richardson?
We were sending out our demos. We were sending out things to big record labels. I may be misremembering this, but we definitely sent them to like Roadrunner, Metal Blade, Nuclear Blast, like all those really quote unquote big metal record labels, and getting rejected everywhere, left, right, and center, because I'm sure they didn't know what to do with us. And that's probably one of the reasons why. But what I would love to recapture again in my life is just the wide-eyed wonder of the process of creating an album. Since I'm doing things on my own now, I think that part is lost a little bit, where we're creating something, we're getting together and things are just happening and it's just magic all around, which I think can only really be replicated with being in a band with other people who you just click with 100%. So that feeling and that experience was so much, that was just a lot of magic happening and really history happening in real time. It was a little overwhelming, but also just so invigorating and exciting. But then also having this sort of innocence about it, like, oh, okay, we're recording an album for a week and then we're just going back to high school and like back to our mundane lives and hating grade 9 mathematics or whatever it was and being horrible at it, and, you know, walking down the hallway and people throwing things at you because they think your hair is dirty or something, because we were corn kids at the time, right? So we would all have like dreads and they would yell like, take a shower or whatever. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about, dude?
Spit in Your Eye, a feature-length band documentary, was released along with music videos for singles Brackish and Charlotte. And in a 2-year period, Kittie were catapulted into a crazy world, touring with Chevelle, Slipknot, Sevendust, Suicidal Tendencies, Shovel, and playing the iconic Ozfest. Brackish and Charlotte peaked at number 46 and 60 on the UK singles chart. Both music videos were played on MTV, with Charlotte being one of the most played on that channel during July 2000.
In the space of a year, they've not only recorded their first album called Spit, signed on with an American record label, and they even went to New York to shoot their first video.
You know, it was like, what a contrast, right?
Yeah, two different worlds, or two
different
headspaces at least.
Absolutely. I get to be a kid, but I'm a working kid right now. So oddly enough, a lot in common with like child actors. Like they're like kids, but they're not, you know?
Funny enough, that point you just made leads into my next question. Really love the band sections in the Charlotte music video. It highlights your uniqueness as a performer, and the way you chose to present how you played was always really intriguing to me. There's a huge vibe in general within that video from all of you. The band dynamic is really cool in the performance and also the member cutaway scenes. In a short space of time, you've gone from going to school to now performing on TV, playing huge shows, shooting music videos. What went into creating your stage presence and persona, and how would you have described it?
Gotcha.
Ooh, it's a good one. If you look at earlier photos of me in particular, I was very afraid to let go, if that makes sense. Just be crazy and rock out. The whole experience of me being in Kittie was like this blossoming of embracing the confidence to just do it. Balls out, let's just fucking do it. And so you see me in the beginning, I just want to fucking hide. I don't want to perform in front of people. I don't want to, do this. It's scary. It's nerve-wracking, whatever. But then it just kind of changed at one point. I'm just like, I'm a natural performer. That's what I do. Why am I being so afraid to be myself? And most of the time it was just playing in front of our friends, even though that's probably sometimes the most nerve-wracking times. But just do it. Whatever feels, whatever comes out, just do it. I don't know if there's anybody in particular that I looked at and I'm like, I'm going to be like them, but I think it just came out organically and just morphed into this psycho person. And sometimes I couldn't keep it up for an hour-long set. It was a lot. And then I would go in like a little ebb and flow of just, maybe I'll just stand here now. And that was okay. I just had to give myself permission to do that. Just be a wild person. if that's what I feel like doing.
Yeah, there was something really unique about your demeanor in the Charlotte music video. Almost minimalistic, but with such presence. And I loved how you maintained eye contact with the camera.
Yeah.
It was a mixture of something inviting and very unsettling.
You're playing a role, really.
Yeah, okay, cool. So let's talk about that. Is that what it felt like for you?
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, stage Fallon was not really the same as offstage Fallon.
It's like looking in a mirror, only not.
There were certainly parts of it. You know, we were playing these songs so many times and we're getting kind of sick of them. We really wanted to get in and start writing the second album or whatever. But then there were just some times where the feeling that people described to me when they heard Spit for the first time hit me while I was on stage. In the sense that I realized how fucking amazing it feels and sounds. And it just hit me at this on stage, like, oh my God. And then that makes me freak out. It's like, oh my God, yes. And then you're just like another one in the audience who's also enjoying the music, but you're playing it. It's just weird. It's like outside of my body experience. That happened to me frequently where I was like, oh my God, this song is awesome.
Yes. I mean, it's such a nice feeling when you dig what you create, right? And it has nothing to do with ego or vanity. It's such a nice energy to feed off and can be a really positive thing and creatively so stimulating.
Yeah. I think there was a second part to your question and I didn't answer it. I apologize.
Oh yeah, I can't even remember now, but
yeah,
I'm sure we went
Okay,
there.
I did. Okay, good. So like there was a second part, but honestly, I got more thoughts, ADD, you know, more thoughts come in there and I'm like, oh, but there's this and so I apologize.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I love it. It's great. And also, that's what I get for often asking two-part questions. This isn't the first time I've had this happen, but I just can't help myself. Two-part questions or go home, yo.
Yeah, fair. I appreciate your thoroughness though.
I remember the first time I heard Kitty. I was traveling the UK with my family, experiencing foreign landscapes while living in a camper van and visiting my mother's heritage. Somewhere there along the way, we treated ourselves to a night of accommodation outside of the van, and with me I had a Metal Hammer magazine with a complimentary compilation CD which featured many songs, one of which was by Canada's Kittie from their soon-to-be released debut album, Spit. Most of my memories are associated with music. That's probably pretty obvious by now. And while having this fortunate, very humbling experience to travel overseas as a very young teenager, I have to honestly say that what I remember most comes down to associations with my passions and interests, cinema and music, and their connection to what was happening during that holiday. So to paint the scene, we were warmly settled into our lovely accommodation with a common area that looked out over the ravenous, frozen British countryside landscape. Nestled into a comfy couch with this breathtaking view, I now had a moment to myself and the opportunity to finally get lost in my metal magazine while listening to the CD on my Discman. All the while in this completely surreal setting and circumstance. Now, I had never heard female-fronted vocals in heavy music, so Kitty were my first, and nothing can ever take that away. I loved the fact that you were high school kids who started a band and were signed, And likewise, because of Stray Sunklado, my favorite band, a band from the Gold Coast who was signed to Sony Music, all at the average age of 16, it hit me with that epiphany. Hey, if they can do it. And the rest was history. I wanted to be in a band that very same day. And you can check out more of that story in episode 12 with Luke McDonald of Sunklado.
Love it.
When Spit was released, I was actually only a year or so younger than you.
Yeah.
But at that point in time in my life, anyone in a band seemed older to me, not just in age, but in terms of life experience and accomplishments and the guts it would take to do that job. I was just a kid and the bands were always the adult, and I was following your career in magazines on the other side of the world in Australia, so it all seems so very grown up and far outside any world I knew or could relate to. But it's so easy to forget that when it came down to it, you were all just kids, you were teenagers doing this.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. What was it like essentially growing up and in many ways discovering yourself as an artist, as a person, in front of crowds around the world? How did that impact you?
It was very confusing at times, I must admit. Also very lonely, and I'm not trying to make it sound woe is me, negative, whatever, but there were certainly parts of it that I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, this is maybe a little bit too intense for what I am emotionally and psychologically capable of dealing with, because there were certainly moments where it's like, okay, we're going to be playing in front of, 50,000 people. And in theory, it's no different than us playing in our basement for ourselves. We're playing songs that we've been playing over and over and over again for, at this point, since 1996. Like, it shouldn't be any different, but the pressure to make sure that we deliver adequately was a lot. Make sure that we play perfectly every night so that people don't give any fuel to the people that don't think we can do it, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm dead either way. So do it yourself, asshole.
So that was hard to deal with at times. But on the flip side, how many 15, 16-year-olds were doing what we were doing at the time? And honestly, would not want to be in any other place at that point. Even given the pressure, it was absolutely worth it in a lot of ways. There were some times that I wish I was older getting into it, but I don't regret it. I certainly don't regret it. It was just, I kind of sometimes wish I handled things differently in other ways. But I was literally a child. Like, I didn't know any other way.
I think it's really admirable. At that age, you're just not really that equipped with all the life skills necessary to be dealing with or processing a lot of that, let alone navigating through the pressures of high school. It's really so surreal whenever I hear about this from any of my guests, doing the things you were doing so young.
Dealing with like lawyers and record labels and all these people that are throwing millions of dollars behind you. That's huge pressure for a kid.
Do you think I'm
Although I think a lot of it I'm maybe projecting onto myself as a kid. I'm thinking about all the $1 million thing that was going on at the time now as a 37-year-old. At the time, I don't think I was really caring at all what people were spending money on. But now I think back on it, maybe I did. Maybe I was kind of conscious about that. So the pressure was getting to me at some points in my career. So it's a lot to deal with. It takes a certain constitution to do that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Were saying that sometimes you would feel lonely. What were some of the things you would try and do to pull yourself out of that?
Oh, thank God I was a prolific journaler. Prolific. And also because I'm a huge hoarder, I keep everything, and I still have every single journal from every tour that we did, and even before then.
Way.
So yeah, a book is coming.
I read about it in a book.
And the amount of detail that I would go into sometimes, it surprises me. I'm like, the amount of maturity that I had at that time that I lost. Like as soon as I turned 20, I just became an idiot again. And then looking back and I'm like, wow, I was really like eloquent at this time, speaking about these things very deeply and poetically. And it surprised me because I'm like, was that me? Did I actually write that? Not tooting my own horn, but like, 16-year-old Fallon, she knew what was up.
To be or not to be. Not to be.
But yeah, that's journaling really helped me. And I also had a wonderful group of friends, and my family kept me very grounded as well. They didn't treat me any differently. They had their own lives, and I came home and I'm like, hey, I came back from touring. Oh yeah, cool. They didn't treat me any differently, so that was also tremendously helpful, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you had the stability to return to or
Exactly.
to count on when you needed it.
Yeah. I had a cell phone at that point. It was a very rudimentary one, but I could at least call my friends. Actually, I really only had one friend at that time. Bless her. And she would tell me all like the high school gossip, who's dating who, and there was a big fight at school. And that kept me sane and fought off the loneliness.
And so while you're calling up and checking in on the goss going on back at school, you're also playing festivals like Ozfest.
Yeah.
I love looking back, at some of these events, moments, circumstances in the early stages of Kittie's career, because for myself, they really help put into perspective that crazy little bubble you were all in.
Yeah.
What was an experience like Ozfest like, playing such an iconic festival while so young, but on a bill made up mostly by male-dominated bands, performing for largely male-driven audiences?
Oh, what an experience, really. It was just incredible. Being on Ozfest was really interesting because it was literally like a traveling circus, but also just like high school. Like we're all just traveling high school, essentially. So even though we weren't in high school anymore at that point, and I was hearing the stories from my friend back home, like I was already in high school, but just like we play in bands, you know what I mean? We all ate in a cafeteria. We all kind of knew the gossip and what was happening, blah, blah, blah. We all kind of had our cliques, and some people kind of hung out together. Like we hung out with Reveille because they were in their late teens, early 20s. So they were young guys, hang out with them. And then we would hang out with Shovel. We had already toured with them with Seven Dust. So that's why we were so thick as thieves, because we already toured together. They were just amazing. Love those guys. So we hung out with like the quote unquote younger guys, younger people, but they were still 10 years older than us.
Which, at your age, is a big difference.
It was a big difference. But then again, they were about as mature as a 17-year-old kid. Love them to pieces. I say that with peace and love, by the way. So we were on the same in terms of maturity. It's like we're hanging out with dudes that we were hanging out with back home. So it wasn't any different. But it was such a warm camaraderie that we had. And then in terms of it being male dominated, very, very interesting. Because like I said, we hung out with the kind of younger guys, but then there were certainly the older contingent that were suspicious of us for some reason, or they just didn't even pay attention to us, which is fine, whatever. That always struck me as weird. I don't want to speak for the other ladies, but it always struck me as strange. Like, I guess I'm not calling anybody out here by saying this because it was true. The guys in Crazy Town would never talk to us. It was like this weird thing.
It's better to forget.
To forget? After I've seen the outline of my brother's body on the floor, you expect me to forget? I want to kill those sons of bitches. I'm gonna blow their fucking heads off.
Or guys in POD would never talk to us. It was like, okay, what? Hi, hello, oh, hello. And not sure what was up there, but it was very weird vibes. They didn't maybe want to know or didn't want to talk to us, didn't want to get to know us. whereas everybody else was super, super friendly. And I don't know if that has to do with the fact that we were young or women or both.
From a fan's point of view, Ozfest, especially back then, was some sort of mecca when it came to the bands on the touring circuit, and it just seemed like a concert goer's dream come true. Even more so for me, you know, growing up in Australia and living it from afar through magazines and stuff.
Yeah.
Were there any pinch yourself moments from Ozfest, you know, meeting certain bands or members or anything that really stands out to you as something you'll have forever?
Oh, yeah, certainly. Prior to me being on Ozfest, I wasn't a huge Pantera fan, but I got into them when Reinventing the Steel came out, which came out in 2000. And that was why they were touring on Ozfest. I think someone had given me the CD for free as like a promo. And I'm like, holy fuck. And so then I had the absolute privilege of seeing them a couple of times, even though they were directly after our set. I had the privilege of seeing them and seeing and quote unquote partying, not really partying, obviously, we were kids, but with like Dimebag and getting to know them as people. These just really super jolly dudes. That's what they came across as to me. I was already a huge Incubus fan before then, so I got to get to know them very well and then also see them play a handful of times, which was awesome. Those were the big highlights for me, seeing Incubus, seeing Pantera, and Soulfly too, because I was like, fuck, man, Soulfly, like their album, the first one, we opened for them sort of directly before. So a lot of the time I didn't get to see their set, but there were a couple of times where I caught them. I'm like, oh, fuck, still slaps. Every song.
Yeah, there's definitely a huge fire on Soulfly's debut. I mean, he had to come out swinging on that one, right? So, in my opinion, there's a lot of magic there. And, of course, Ross Robinson, once again. Actually, not to take anything away from Garth at all, but I've always thought there's a lot of vibe and atmosphere in Spit that in some ways is very reminiscent of Ross Robinson.
We were certainly very, very aware of Ross, really because we were watching Korn's Who Then Now. Have you seen it? You've seen it?
Yeah, I own it on VHS.
Of course you do. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. You know, we watched that religiously as kids, and it doesn't figure prominently in it, as you know, but like he's there, and you know.
And to me, that's God.
Yeah, that's the guy. He's responsible for this.
I can't fucking stress hard enough how important it is to shine something beyond your fucking bodies, okay? You gotta conjure the thing that's just screaming to come out of you. Screaming, dying to come out of you. This is it. Everything that you've ever loved has to come through right now. This is all we have. This is all we have. We have nothing else. We don't even get to keep our fucking bodies. But this lasts and inspires. So let's get it on.
He kind of got this mythical status Because of Ross, I found Limp Bizkit and feel how you feel about them now. But like at the time when I heard $3 Bill, y'all, I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I like this. More so, I think, for Wes's guitar sound. I was like, fuck, this album is just so heavy.
Facts.
Take away Fred's singing and just listening to it, the music isolated. Whew.
I think of myself at that age, in that headspace, in that world of wanting to be in a band. Starting one with my friends in school, it's one of my fondest memories. In many ways, so many experiences and moments of growth stem from that band. And we were just local, but it was a way for me to find my voice and express myself at a point in time in life when it can often be such a struggle. Once Kittie was signed and a full-time touring act, how did the business side of things impact you as a creative? Like, did anything change for you, positive or negative, from starting the band in high school with friends to Kittie essentially becoming a professional business?
Yeah, we had those songs that had time to incubate, right? So like 3 years. 3 years to sit there and refine and write more. And then after the Snowcore tour ended in 2001, we were expected to write something in like 3 months. So that's when it really hit me. Even though I'd been touring now 2 years, because we toured in 1999 too, I felt a bit like a circus animal. There were a lot of moving parts that were kind of going on that I wasn't exactly privy to at the time. I had to perform, I had to produce, I had to put these things out. And then the reality of the fact that this had become a business was a rude awakening. I know that a lot of musicians get around that by when they're on tour, they still will continue to write. I've never been that type of person. I think I might have ADD. Like, I just need to be hyper focusing on one thing and do it really, really well. But I'm touring right now. That's what I'm doing. I can't do touring and writing at the same time. It's just not in me to do that. I mean, we could have gotten around that by writing while we're on the road, but I just can't do it.
Sure.
So that was when that really became very clear to me in a negative way, that now this is a business and we're expected to write a new album in 3 months and record it. And then it became really, the pressure was just immense to write something. We were coming into our writing sessions being like, okay, so what do you want to do with this? And I, at that point, was starting to get into other types of music. I was heavily into industrial music. So I was listening to like KMFDM and Ministry pretty much every freaking day. And I'm like, yeah, can we like add some more like synths? Can we add stuff like that? Can we experiment a little bit? First of all, I don't think we had time to do all that, but then it became a creative difference thing. We had totally different visions about where we were going to go with the next album. And I'm like, this isn't sustainable. This isn't going to work. How are we going to fucking get through this in 3 months? It's not going to work.
Would you say then, looking back with over 20 years retrospect, that those were the primary reasons contributing towards your decision to walk away from Kittie? Those creative differences and the actual pressure to create?
I mean, I think all of us were feeling that though. I just had gotten to a place where it just wasn't sustainable for me. I'm like, I can't do this. I need time to actually write things. I need to sit there and experiment and whatever. We just weren't given that time to do so. Actually, I won't speak for everybody. I'll speak for myself. I didn't feel like I had the veto power to say, no, we're not going to do this in 3 months. We need the time to actually write this record right. Yeah. We had 3-4 years to write Spit. So give us the time to write the second one. And I didn't feel like I had a voice to say that. That's a fact. That's how I felt. It's a fact for me. It was my truth at the time. I didn't feel like I could say, guys, we need more time to do this. Like, come on. Yeah. That was unfortunately the nail in the coffin for me. If this is the way it's going to be, I don't know if I could do this. This is not good.
It's a massive life-changing decision and so interesting because back in high school when someone would leave a band I was really in love with, it was a really hard concept to grasp when those people, you know, are the face of the music or this movement that means so much, and they all seem so essential in representing or portraying that connection to the music and all the positive things it gave me. So as a teenager, when a band member left, there was this, it feels weird to say, but this sense of loss, and it was hard to understand why. I even remember having these emotions of hurt, grief, but that's not even taking into consideration you as a person, as the actual person, you know, the one going through that decision to leave.
Not in my movie.
What was it like for you after leaving Kitty, that transition into the next chapter of your life? I mean, it must have been a pretty crazy experience, right? Especially between 99 and 2001. And then you exit that unique, surreal bubble. Were you equipped with the necessary life skills in terms of picking up the pieces and moving to the next chapter in your life?
No. Not at all. Not at all. I'll be honest with you. It was the darkest period of my life ever. From like May 2001 until August, I didn't leave my parents' basement once at all. Because thankfully I was still a kid, right? And I was still living with my parents. Can you imagine if I were in my 20s or whatever? I probably would have been dead, to be perfectly frank with you. But yeah, I come home to just complete despair, hearing all sorts of rumors about what people are saying about the reason I left. And none of it was even remotely close to the truth. Can you imagine if social media was around then? It would have been absolute self-implosion. I would have it wouldn't have been good. But I was hearing all sorts of rumors and things and people talking about me, and I didn't have the opportunity nor the outlet. If I had Twitter, I would say, listen, this is the reason why, and that's that. But everyone just kind of made up their own reason as to why. Anyway, so that was weighing on me. So I just needed time to like not be around music. I actually divorced from music for a long time. And what I mean by that is like, I didn't even listen to music. I didn't play music. I didn't want anything to do with music at all because I felt it betrayed me. It was a very, very dark, awful period.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's silencing a very big part of who you are, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really awful, really, really terrible. But thankfully, I had very great friends. I had wonderfully supportive parents, and that really got me through. And my mom was like, Fallon, you need to leave the house. You need to do things. You need to discover. You're a young woman. You're a child. Like, come on, you're 17. You have to go out and experience life and decide what you want to do with the rest of your life. And that was like, what? I have to actually, what? Yeah, are you telling me to adult now? Like actually adult? That was a rude awakening for sure. Second rude awakening in 1 year.
No longer to be poisoned by civilization, he flees and walks alone upon the land to become lost in the wild.
From there, I took stock of everything that I wanted to do. Do I want to continue with music, or do I want to put that on the back burner and maybe go back to school? Because remember, I had left high school. So that was my first thing. Go back to high school, get back to a sense of normalcy and banality that I had not experienced before in the 2 years prior.
Did that time away then help with being able to eventually open up again to the idea of bringing music back into your life?
Yes, I think so. Because funnily enough, my best friend and I decided to go to New Jersey in August of 2001. Because remember, my mom said, you need to get out of the house. You need to live your life. So her and I decided to take this trip. And at the time, don't ask why, I'm not going to elaborate. I'll talk about it in my book. I was obsessed with military things, just beyond obsessed. It was a whole phase. I don't understand the psychology of it, what was going on with me at the time. Although I have speculated the reason why was because I was looking for something to belong to, because I felt like I didn't belong to anything anymore. So I was obsessed with like military things, and I was becoming so interested in industrial music. And I'd already been previously, I'm like, I want to write an industrial album. I think that would be really cool. And so then I started getting into synthesis and understanding like how to program synths and all that stuff. That kind of started to creep into my life the end of 2001 into 2002. That love affair with music started to creep back into my life. And I'm like, okay, I feel safe enough to create music now. I feel like I'm in the headspace to do it. And I had gone back to school as well, slowly but surely. I took some courses or whatever distance and actually went back to school and started performing in drama class and things like that. That's another thing I did after being in Kittie, was doing a lot of musicals, because I was like, okay, performing in front of people, this is it. Oh, singing in front of people, this is it. Musicals get me going, man. Whew. I will break out into song whether you want it or not. Great work. It's working with people who are passionate and super talented. And I love being surrounded by other artists who like that. I just want to soak it all up. I never feel like I'm as good as they are. So I'm like, just give me all of your amazingness. So I got back into performance and being in front of people. And then I was slowly, baby steps, becoming back in love with performing that way.
Amphibious Assault's debut album, District 6, was released in 2003 and featured contributions from former Kittie bandmate, bassist Talina Atfield, and was soon followed by 2006 sophomore On Better Day and Sin Eating.
Yeah.
How did that feel to now have something you felt ready to once again invest in and finally have another creative outlet?
It was great, although I was very apprehensive. PTSD almost, like I just came out of it like just being afraid of creating music, because I was very scarred, very like afraid of how it was going to be accepted, because of course Amphibious Assault is not Kittie at all, as far away from it as you could get. And of course MySpace was becoming a thing then as well, and so people were finding me and knowing that I had this project and being like, oh my god, it's awful, it's not metal, and people are already kind of hating on it already. I'm like, the fuck, I'm doomed to become only a metal musician. I can't do anything else. So that was a really hard thing to get over. But at the same time, I'm like, if you don't like it, you can fuck off. I'm sorry.
Yo, yeah, nice.
Sorry, let's call it how it is. You don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. I don't need to know your fucking opinion about how you don't like this and whatever. Don't like it? Fine. I don't care. So we're talking about garnering more confidence. That was really pivotal for me, being like, you know what? Fuck off, sir.
I mean, that's quite a hard place to get to, where you can swipe away that negativity, stand up for yourself, back yourself, not just creatively, but in general on a day-to-day basis. Constructive criticism is fantastic. It's super healthy and essential, but
Sure.
I've never personally understood why strangers will go out of their way and make the effort to bring you down in only negative ways. And there's definitely a big difference between that and constructive criticism.
And I don't want to piss off people by saying this, but I just find that people that are very much entrenched in metal and heavy music, not always, but once you find those people that are so entrenched in it, they would rather not listen to anything else. I feel it's a very dangerous place to be. As a musician, and as I've explained earlier, that my influences are as eclectic as they can get. Metal is a part of that. It isn't all of that. It's a part of that. It shapes me as an artist. But I generally don't like talking to people who are like, I only listen to this kind of genre. I'm like, yeah, no. I'm sorry, no.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
I don't trust you. I'm sorry. I will respect your decision to that's all you want to consume, but I don't think we'll have much in common, to be honest.
Our Father, who art in heaven, that will be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Our will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day.
I think fundamentally it comes down to a really simple concept, that being a good song is a good song.
Thank you.
And just listen to something. If it doesn't connect with you, sweet, all good, that's fine, it's okay.
And it's okay being like, I don't like this. It's fine, but I wouldn't go out and seek your band, David's band, and be like, yo, your band fucking sucks. Why would I take that energy and volley it at someone? First of all, I don't even know. Second of all, what purpose does that serve? I don't get that. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
Negativity is such a draining emotion, and you could just spend that time and energy in other areas and potentially reap so much more reward.
100%.
Actually, that this happens to be my next question, particularly because it's following what we just talked about. But yeah, did you check out Oracle when it was released?
No.
No.
No. Sorry. I was like, I'm ready to tell you no, I did not. Sorry, you can finish the rest of your question.
No, that's cool. I was just going to ask that if you had, were there any of your riffs or ideas from those post-Snowcore writing sessions present on the album?
No, zero. And it's also funny now, I can look back on it and be like, whatever, it didn't have anything to do with it because, as I said, my head was not in the game to do that at that point. But then I heard it for the first time when I played with them again in 2017.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is pretty good, guys. It was like I was hearing it. Well, I was hearing it for the first time. I was hearing all of their catalog years and years after I had left, all the catalog that they had created. I'm like, yo, this song fucking slaps. This is great. And Morgan's like, thanks. It was like they were a band I'd never heard before. It was brand new to me. So to answer your question, no, I'd never heard it. And I heard it for the first time in 2017.
I think that's pretty cool because it just goes to show where you're at with it all now and with yourself. It seems like a really great place.
Yeah.
Which, once again, funny enough, leads me to the next question. A kind of full circle closure type of moment, I imagine. October 27th, 2017, you hit the stage with the Landis sisters and played fan favorites from Spit as part of celebrating 25 years of Kittie.
Was I not good enough for you, King? Was I not good enough for you, King? I guess not.
And watching you up there on the DVD, of course, it really looked like you were in it and loving it. Really cool vibes. Was that a surreal moment? And yeah, how was it to play songs you wrote when you were 12, 14, but playing them now in 2017? For people to still really feel that music.
Oh man, it was very nerve-wracking because even though, yes, there were songs that I played when I was 12 and up until I was 17, having to relearn my own songs was very strange, like very weird, because I wanted to put those songs in a vault and never hear them or play them ever again. And I thought that was what was going to happen. So learning to play them again was very interesting. And even during the show, I fucked up still, which was so endearing to me. I was like, aw, I'm still terrible. Great. It was a very heartwarming moment because we all noticed that it happened and we all just kind of laughed because it's like, who cares, right? It's not a big deal. And it kind of added to the surrealness of the night in a way. It was extremely surreal. For sure it was. And playing in front of people. We had people from all over the world, dude. My good friend from Norway came. We met exchanging demos in 1998.
Yeah,
he sent me his demo of his band. I sent him a Kittie demo because we met in like a forum where musicians could talk or whatever. And he's been my friend ever since. He was like, I would not miss this show. I'm flying all the way from Norway. I'm going to see it. We had a girl from Australia come. We had people from all over the US come. It was incredible. And it was very overwhelming. Seeing Tanya being like so fucking pregnant and so plain, which was just like, oh my God, you're such a rock star. It's amazing. But I did, and I think I said this to Tanya, or I said it kind of in passing. It was weird not having Talina there because this is supposed to be the original lineup. But so much of what is cemented in people's head is Talina being there that a part of me also wanted to see that happen once more in my lifetime, to kind of close that chapter, as it were. So that made me very, very upset, really. It was just like, I wish you were here. It's such a weird feeling. I wish you were here so you could be part of that. But I knew that was never going to happen. So a part of me was also mourning that aspect. So it was like a very surreal night, emotional night, a lot of things. There were a lot of feelings.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, there's so much history there. Only you guys as a band know.
Interesting.
I saw on your Instagram that you had recently caught up with Talina. Are you guys still friends? I know
absolutely.
A lot of fans would really be curious to know if she's happy and doing well.
Very, very well. Talina really saved me in some ways. After I left the band and I told you that I was having like this awful time, we would still see each other whenever she would come into the neighborhood. We would still meet up and talk, and she would tell me how she was feeling and how things were going on with her. And she was just always my lifeline to like sanity. And she always has been like this very like sage person. Like she's just smart and fantastic. And we've kind of ebbed and flowed out of each other's lives over the past 20 years. But every time we come back together, it's like She's just such a magical person. I just love her to pieces. And yeah, we see each other and we talk relatively frequently, more frequently now than we did before, which is strange. We realize, oh my God, we've been friends for 22 years. We've weathered so many periods in each other's lives over the years. And how weird is that we started not knowing each other in a band? Like I barely knew her when she was in the band. I'm like, I don't really know you very well, but we had a shared connection and we will always have that connection until we die. So it's weird. On top of the fact that she's an amazing musician, she's obviously whip smart, she's a professor. She's just like great to talk to. If you want to just sort things out in your life, you just go to talk to her. And she's like, yeah, this is what you're going to do. Like she's very much a doer. And she's super happy, content with her life. And she doesn't have a social media presence as a musician anyways. And that's the way she wants to live her life. And I respect the shit out of that now. That you can choose to have that life and people are okay with that. There are some people that are like dissenters who would be like, why don't you have a social media presence? You need to dance for us. You don't own her. This is her life. Let her live it. So anyways, long story short, yes, she's super happy. She's great. Wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Start the music.
Just over 21 years since the release of Spit, you announced the return of Amphibious Assault, and the release of your new album quickly followed in February 2021. I'll have the links for all of that, of course, in the video description. But what I'm curious about is, why did you decide to bring back this project after 15 years, and what's making music mean to you today?
Ooh, yeah, I did technically close the project of Amphibious Assault in 2009, 2010, or maybe after that. I can't remember. But anyways, at some point I said I'm never going to make an Amphibious Assault album ever again because I felt like it had run its course and I had gotten it out of my system, if that makes sense. But there were a lot of things happening with me in my life at that time that I felt that was an appropriate step to make and that I didn't need music anymore to work through my shit. But clearly that's not the case. Like I still have that. Why do I keep denying myself this opportunity to work and create things? I don't know why I do that. But anyways, I did bring it back. And for me, music now is less so working out those demons like that we were talking about earlier. It's just really just exercising my curiosity and like, how can we do this? And how can we expand? How can I just make something out of nothing and nurture that and turn it into something that I would listen to and really enjoy? Maybe if other people think it's shit, but that's fine. As long as I like it, then that's good.
Nice.
I think that's what it means to me now, is experimentation. What can I do with it? What kind of album can I make now? Am I going to make like 18-minute long songs? Cool. And I feel almost liberated to do that now. There isn't such a focus on selling albums anymore for me. I just want to create stuff. That's all. I just want to create it. I'm going to put it out there, see what people like about it. If they like it, great. If they don't, whatever. I'll just keep making more.
I feel that. That's essentially my thoughts with the Life Is Peachy podcast and the music video, music documentary work that I do. I want my guest or client to be happy, of course, and definitely proud of the end result. And I want myself to be in love with what I have made. Beyond that, it's fair game or icing on the cake.
Yeah.
When you look back on those early years of the band, what would you consider your fondest memory or proudest moment?
Ooh, automatically want to say like meeting my idols. Getting to feel like I was part of the cool kids club, which has never happened since. I just feel like, wow, okay, I can hang out with all these people and I'm cool now. Maybe not necessarily something to be proud of, but it was strange, very surreal to be able to call the drummer from Incubus and he just know your name and think of you as a colleague and as an equal. That to me was like, am I a cool person now? Because this has never happened before.
Is this what it feels like?
Is this what it feels like to be cool? I don't know. It was very disorienting and strange. It is a career achievement, I guess, because the music that I created had gotten the momentum to bring me to that point to meet these people. I guess that's not something really to be proud of. I don't know, but
it is.
I guess also someone that I respect. Yeah, like Dimebag watching our set saying, "You fucking rock." I was like, oh, me? I do? Really?
Amazing.
That concept, that possibility didn't even enter my mind. you think that I'm good. Like, I'm not good. I literally just learned how to play guitar 2 years ago. I am never going to be up to your level of guitar playing. It's just never going to happen. So you saying that carries the most amount of weight. Maybe you're just being nice. I don't know. But that was also a big, wow, have I made it? Someone of your level thinks I'm good. Oh,
I mean, fuck. That is surreal. You
right? I'm good at this. What? You guys are fucking awesome. I'm like, ah!
Coming from Dimebag in Dimebag's voice.
Yeah, you guys are fucking awesome. So that's probably the most distinctive memory that sticks out.
Fallon, I would really love to take this opportunity to thank you for your time and energy joining the first episode of 2022, episode 15 of Life Is Peachy Podcast. This, for me, was so much fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for inviting me on.
20 plus years is a long time to live with something, even for a fan, and that's why these releases, these moments in time can mean so much. I was playing Spit in the kitchen actually earlier tonight while making dinner. Still headbanging, still slapping, still loving it. It's such a great feeling.
Awesome. Love that. Love that.
Nice.
Thank you so much again.
I love this job.
I would just like to wish everyone a happy new year and nothing but the best for 2022. Who knows what it will bring at a time when it's often hard to count on much. At least we can always count on music and the joy it brings us. I'm taking just a little bit of time off to catch up with life, and I know myself, so to be transparent with you guys, but I will be back by March to keep this train rolling, so hopefully you'll still be there waiting for me at the station. In the meantime, you can always jump on over to patreon.com/lifeispeachypodcast, where there's always exclusive content waiting for you and the ability to really help keep this podcast going, all for the price of one coffee a month.
I said, goddamn, what a rush!
And I have some really exciting news. I have officially launched another platform, the Life Is Peachy mixtape session. I have a question for you. Do you want to feature on an episode? Do you have something creative you want to share with the world, discuss and promote? Well, send an email to lifeispeachypodcast@hotmail.com and let's give you the mic. And until we see each other again for episode 16, thank you so much for your time and energy, and
see you at the party, Richter.
Bye-bye.
You know, I can eat a peach for hours.
This episode was written, edited, and produced by myself. Recorded from the comfort of my own home.
DIY style.
With each guest calling in from wherever they happen to be around the world at that particular time. The Life Is Peachy theme song is an original tune for this podcast, written by Tim Richardson. All music by the artist featured in this episode is used with permission. Further details can be found in the description of the specific episode. All artwork is original and illustrated for the Life Is Peachy podcast by Chris Lisa Liefting.